What's up, gang? It is June 6th. It is almost midnight here on the West Coast. It's doing a late night video lesson. Just want to go over some of the trades over the last week or so. We've actually had a lot of great stock picks coming out. It all basically kind of started with AFFY as we ripped this from about 143 upwards of, we hit a high of 210. So this was a huge trade here. I made about $5 grand on AFFY, right before this thing just completely collapsed. The day that it hit 210, after hours, I actually sold the last 3,000 shares that I held at 185 as this completely cracked down the downside after hours. I put that video lesson out about 20 minutes before the close saying, this is a very risky stock. There's a lot of sketch news coming out about it, and there could be news that comes out after hours and this thing opens up, maybe even at 20 cents, who knows. But so it was important that you kept this one on close watch, and I'm glad that I took most of my profits on the way up and didn't hold a lot of it. And obviously, it would have been nice to just sell at the next whole number resistance at $2 per share, which is always, the next profit target when you're buying into a FUS4 pattern. Always look at whole numbers as great areas of locking in profits. So we got out decently. I basically sold most of my shares around 185, and this opened up the next day at 150. So that was just about where I initially bought it at 143. The reason why I bought into this in the first place was this was a survival pattern. If I teach this in the FUS4 DVD over and over, basically a survival pattern is a stock that has a ramp up on volume, as you can see here, consolidates, usually comes back down and retests the 13 EMA as it did right here, and then forms kind of like a neckline here that you can draw a trend line, and basically that's a trigger for a breakout buy there, and the next profit target there is either the highs of that previous run or potentially whole number. So this is actually a perfect example of whole numbers acting as resistance. As you can see, this peaked out right around $2 per share, came back down, retested the 13 EMA, formed up another triangle pattern that actually had a trigger at about 156. I got in early. I saw a big volume spike here intraday wise, and it was still right on 13 EMA. So I was watching this before. I had been in a couple times in and out in this area and stopped out for small losses, but just patiently waiting for this to find this breakout. And then we finally ripped it right here at 143 pre-breakout right off the 13 EMA support, and then broke out the next day of F1 right out of the gates here. And we actually continued to add to this on the way up on AFFY. Unfortunately, that news came out, but I was able to make $5 grand, and a lot of you guys were able to lock in those profits as well. Now we're back down at 1. Who knows what's going to happen to this stock now. The reason why it dropped is because it got a notice from the NASDAQ for a delisting notice. As of right now, I don't really have much interest in trading this stock at the moment. So I just probably won't be trading this again until there's some kind of more news out saying if the company's okay or not. I don't want to get caught in some kind of crazy sell-off. But anyways, that was AFFY. Next up was CHTP. This stock has treated us so nicely. We actually tried to buy into this stock. I don't know how many times I tried to play this breakout back in this whole region, and it just never got that rip. As you can see, all these spikes up to the intraday spike, intraday spike, intraday spike. Every time it was selling off, and I kept selling out for very small losses, just being like, what the F, screw this stock. But I kept it on watch because it was in a FUS4 pattern. It just took a long time for this to, finally form up here, and we actually ripped it perfectly at 193 the day before this thing just absolutely exploded. Made a nice little profit. I didn't go in huge on this stock because I was definitely skeptical about it, because every time I had bought into it, it continued to spike up and just didn't get any follow through. But as I wrote on the watch list the night before this actually ripped, I said, hey, we finally got a strong close here. This could mean, that we're going to see a huge rip. Unfortunately, I missed the actual $2 breakout roll here. I wanted to add to this position big time, and just was busy screwing around with another stock right out of the gates, and didn't catch that buy price there. but we did lock in those profits, took advantage of that big spike, and then we got back in right at 217 here, which is basically the midpoint of the breakout candle. As I teach in the Foods 4 DVD, that's the great buying strategy on a breakout, is find that midpoint of the breakout candle. It's never perfect, but in that general area is typically an area where you're going to find support buyers, and this actually worked out perfectly. You always want to see that dip to the intraday or middle of the breakout candle, and then a nice spike back up, and that's exactly what happened. We got in at 217. I've been continuing to add here to CHTP in the 220s. Locked in half my profit at 238 today, and then this thing just absolutely ripped it up into the close, now up to 260 after hours. Profit target on this is the next whole number resistance, which is about $3 per share. So we'll see if we can get there. Maybe even gets there tomorrow. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but we're definitely looking very bullish here on CHTP. I think I'm up around $4,000 total between all the trades that we've made so far on this. So, I'm pushing nearly $10,000 in profits just on CHTP and AFFY alone, which has been pretty nice. I definitely can't complain, especially with the market, selling off pretty hard here. The market's finally, getting some major selling pressure here. We're back down at the 50-day moving average. We got a huge spike here. We broke down below it, and then found a lot of buyers that came in on the dip. So there's a lot of still buying interest here with the market coming back down. But Dow futures are down after hours. So we're below the 13 EMA. So right now I'm definitely leaning towards bearish on the markets, at least short-term wise. But it's hard to say. We've broken it down 3 times now, and then just continue to rip back to the upside. But it's been about 6 months or so of just straight up on the market. We're definitely due for some kind of a pullback. I don't even know how much, but it would be nice. I want the market to pull back. It's never as easy to make money when the market's pulling back. If you're swing trading stocks on the long side and the market continues to fall every day, the likelihood of your stocks continuing to move up is, very small. So when the market's below the 13 EMA, as I teach, in a lot of the other video lessons I've done, you definitely need to be more cautious with, your stops. Be very tight on your stops and your longs. Lock in your profits when you get them. And, just be cautious about swing trading. If the market's continuing to fall to the downside, your swing trades aren't going to just be ripping to the upside as if they would when the market's on the up. So I didn't make a huge amount of money on these latest trades. I made 10 grand, which is awesome, but I could have made a lot. For example, another one was OSH. This is a perfect 13 EMA bounce buy today. This thing ripped up 30% right out of the gates. I put this on the watch list last night saying, hey, we're pulling back towards the 13 EMA. You gotta love the 13 EMA. It's the fucking shit is what it is, because it works all the time. It's a perfect dip buy area. It's an excellent trend indicator, and it just happened again today where we got a nice buy in on OSH. We came back down. It's never going to be perfect, but it came right near the 13 EMA and just ripped up 30% today. I got in right at the open here at 252 on OSH right before it ripped all the way up to what, 325. Unfortunately, I sold at 270, and I was only long 2,000 shares because I'm very skeptical of the market right now. But I was still able to identify the pattern and at least make around $400 very quickly within minutes on this. I could have made a crap load of money if I would have played it larger and actually let it just play out. But you're never going to make the perfect trade. Trading's all about woulda, shoulda, coulda. But the goal is to identify the patterns that work, and if you can at least get a piece of that pie, that's you're winning in trading. If you can't kick yourself for all the woulda, shoulda, couldas because you're going to go drive yourself nuts. Obviously I've screwed up majorly this year, and I've bought many stocks that I've either sold out for a loss, then the next day the stock rips up 100%. And I'm like, what the frickin' F is wrong with me? But you can't kick yourself for that, even though how much it sucks. I identify the patterns and I do the best I can. That's all you can do. Trading's not easy. You just got to take what you can get as it comes and just continue to move forward. So that was OSH, a 13 EMA dip. Another one, BLDP. This was one that I bought into right out of the gates this morning. Got in a little late, about I think it was 160. Oh shit, it's up to 170s after hours. We got news out? Huh. I don't know how official these, but there are ticks that went down after hours. Looks like only 400, 600 shares. So I wonder if that's real or not. But, you know, I stopped at a BLDP. I got in early here about 160s, and then it started breaking down. It actually came back down to 156 on the day. But it's another 13 EMA bounce, and actually popped 4% today. You know, it would have been nice to be in both OSH and BLDP overnight. I sold BLDP. I think I lost like 2 cents on it or something, so not a huge loss, but I didn't want to see it continue to fall. But you know, that's a strategy that I love to buy into. I love to see stocks that have huge runs like this and then can completely pull back towards the 13 EMA, and you can make quick scalps there. You know, I did it the other day on PPHM. I traded in and out of PPHM on this 13 EMA dip. Right here, we got long on the red to green move. That's also another thing. You want to look for red to green off the 13 EMA. So we got in on PPHM, I think in the 150s, around 155 area. Sold half and then sold the other half on the gap open in the 160 to 170 range. So as you can see, same exact pattern. Big, huge rip, pulling back down towards the 13 EMA, buy in on a red to green move. So that's a great strategy that I love playing here for the bounce on either a day trade or, you know, swing trade. It depends on how patient you want to be with the stock. What else was there? PXLW. This was a great short. I was in very small on this as well. You know, my shorting strategy, I don't really have one. I just, I mean, I do have a strategy, but I just, I'm not the best shorter in the world. You know, I actually I took a break from shorting for about a year, up until about freaking a week or two ago. And, you know, it's been okay. You know, I'm not the best at it. It's certainly not. You know, I'm definitely 99% longs. But there is a strategy that I use on shorting. Basically what it is I look for stocks that rip to the upside just like this, make huge runs, and find stocks that are peaking out towards a whole number. And once they peak out towards that whole number and fail, I look for that pullback, and then, you know, either a green to red move where a stock's on the green in the day and then it's dropping back towards looking like it's red and also failing at a whole number. So for PLXLW, I actually went long at 398 because we were spiking up there over 4. Let's see if we can pull back here. We spiked over 4 and then started failing and actually went short right here at about 398, and this thing has dropped down to 322 over the last 3 days since I shorted. So, you know, I went long or short a very small position. You know, I'm not very comfortable with shorting. I hate it. It's just I'm very long biased. So, you know, a lot of times when people are shorting or a breakout stock, you know, I'm looking to short or buy it. You know, some people are looking to short. I'm like, I'm not going to short that stock. I'm freaking buying it. It's breaking out. But a lot of times, you know, especially when the market's in bear mode, shorting breakouts can be, you know, a very profitable strategy. So, you know, I'm definitely way more comfortable going long, but there is that strategy that I use. Basically, stocks that have a huge run up, fail at a whole number resistance area, and then look for green to red moves. And we actually made a nice trade here on PXLW. I continued to take profits, add more in here. I added more at 360, then added again at 340, and then finally took all my profits at about 330, I believe it was today, on PXLW. Another one was VNDA. This is one that I had been trying to trade for the last 3 days now, and finally on the day that I decided not to trade it, it cracks 11%. But this was basically the same exact strategy, a stock that has a huge run to the upside. As you can see, it hit the whole number of resistance of 10. You know, I was trying to trade this yesterday and the day before, trying to get this thing to crack to the downside, and it just was not cracking. Every time I tried to short on any weakness, it all of a sudden spiked, you know, 20 to 30 cents on me. Is like instantly after I'd short it, it would spike 20 to 30 cents. So I was like, what the freaking F? So I continued to stop out of it. I didn't want to see it to squeeze the upside because it definitely could have, just like it did at $7, it did it at $8, it did it at $9. You never really know. That's what's difficult about shorting. You know, you're not there isn't like a clear breakout buy. With the Foos 4 strategy, I draw a trend line. As soon as that trend line breaks, I buy it. It's easy as that. On shorting, you have to try to pinpoint the top basically that day. Otherwise, you're putting yourself on a lot of risk of the stock, you know, potentially squeezing, as this, you know, looked like it was failing 7, and then all of a sudden it just went from 7 to over 8 in one day. So shorting's difficult, but you know, it basically that's a strategy. Look for stocks that are failing over a whole number. But anyways, that's about it for today's video lessons. Hopefully we can have some more awesome trades into tomorrow, which is Friday. And yeah, I'll catch you guys bright and early on Foos TV.